Story time. I'm in a long distance relationship and I don't know if I should break up with this boy or not. So a little background information. Him and I were best friends for almost a month before we started dating. And literally as soon as we started dating, he started asking me for nudes. And I would be like, no, not tonight, I'm tired. And then he would keep asking me why. And then he would start to make me feel guilty about not wanting to send him nudes. Eventually, he would just say, it's fine, I'll just wait until we can do physical things together. And he still has, quote, his hoes on Snapchat. And he still has all of their nudes and everything. And literally the day before we started dating, he told me that he liked this one girl. And he'll always hang up the phone to talk to her instead of me. And then when I bring it up, he tries to say that So obviously I try and bring this up to him, and he tries to make me feel bad by saying that he thinks about unaliving himself. He also has a few other red flags, like for part 2. Story time. I'm in a long distance relationship with this boy and I don't know if I should break up with him or not. So like I said, he says he always thinks about unaliving himself, so obviously I feel bad for him and I just love him so much that I can't let him go, and he has a bunch of other red flags. Like he'll tell people he's 13 and other people he's 14, and he apparently didn't know his birthday. Well, fast forward, he's been texting me more, and when I told him I loved him, he left me on open, which he never does. He always says it back to me. We still haven't really been talking on the phone, but I did send him pictures. Not fully nude, but both times I sent those, he literally called me right after. But other than that, he will never call me.
This is how I found out my husband is seeing an underage girl. Disclaimer is not my story time, it's gonna be on Instagram. I'm a 25-year-old woman. When I first met my husband, I was 16 years old. I now realize how much he groomed me. I was 16, I decided to sign up for my local gym. As soon as I walked in, my husband saw me and tried to get me to sign up. He was one of the personal trainers at the gym. Now, here's the thing. I was a 16-year-old girl. Not a lot of boys had paid attention to me up until that point. I was overweight in high school and I got constantly made fun of. I even had a bully that called me tubby in front of the entire class. As you can imagine, when I signed up for the gym, I was determined to lose weight. So when I met him at the gym that day, I instantly started liking him. He was extremely handsome. He had a chiseled face and was in incredibly good shape, as you can imagine. And he was really sweet to me. When we first met, he was 22 years old. He became my personal trainer, and after a few weeks of training, he started calling me sweet names. He would say things like, "You're so beautiful, making such great progress, I'm so proud of you." And eventually he started calling me princess. And it worked because I was falling in love. Part 2 is up. This is how I found out my husband was dating an underage girl. Disclaimer is not my story time, it's gonna be on Instagram. At the time I didn't realize it, but he was grooming me. I was 16 and he was 22. The more weight I began to lose, the more affectionate he would become. Mind you, he's my trainer. Trusted everything he was doing. Like I said in part 1, I was already falling in love with him. By the time I had lost 30 pounds, I was completely head over heels for him. And at this point, he started buying me flowers and chocolates. He would find reasons to give me a gift all the time. When he asked me out to go to dinner, he said that he wanted to congratulate me for the hard work that I'd been doing. Of course, I didn't go home and tell my parents that my personal trainer had invited me to dinner. Went to dinner with him, and after that, we were together every single day. He asked me to be his girlfriend and I said yes. We quickly began to do everything a boyfriend and girlfriend do. When I turned 18, we decided to tell my parents about the relationship. My parents were furious. They only knew him as my personal trainer. My dad instantly forbade the relationship, but we still ended up getting married when I was 19. That's when my personal hell began. I started catching him cheating all the time. It's like he almost didn't care that I would find out. He was always texting other girls. None of them were underage. And he always promised that he would do better, so I stayed with him. Until I found out he liked children. Part 3 is I had caught him cheating 5 times at this point. I know what you're telling yourself, how stupid could I be to stay with a man like that? But I was just so attracted and so in love with him, I couldn't leave him. But then the worst thing happened. I decided to put him to the test. I told him I was going out of town to visit a friend and he believed me. But do you think I really did? No. I got a hotel room. Later that night, I went back to my house. Looked through the window and I see my husband sitting on our couch with what I thought was a woman. I unlocked the door and burst in furious. The woman turns back to look at me. And that's when I see a child. A 12-year-old child. I honestly didn't automatically assume anything wrong. I ask him, what is this little girl doing here? That's when the little girl looks at me and tells me he's my boyfriend. My knees began to tremble. At this point, all the memories of him and I meeting come back to me. I began to realize how he groomed me and that this little girl was there for you know what. I didn't even hesitate. Took the little girl up to my bedroom and locked the door. Called the police and they arrived fast. On his phone, they had found 14 different conversations with underage girls. One of them being my own cousin. Did I make a story time about that? Anyway, he's in jail now.
Am I wrong for leaving my mother-in-law's funeral after my husband lied to me? So my mother-in-law, my husband's mom, passed away 2 weeks ago. She lived hours away in her hometown, and we had to drive 6 hours to get there and attend the funeral later. At first, I didn't want to go, and the reason is because of my brother-in-law, Michael. He's my husband's half-brother. Mother-in-law isn't his mom. Michael and I had some issues in the past that I will not elaborate on. I went low contact with him, then full on no contact. I asked my husband if Michael was going to be there, and he said it was a no-brainer since he and mother-in-law had a close relationship. I didn't want to go, and my husband argued about it for hours, then came home later and said that Michael would not be there due to travel issues. He lives in another state. I decided to go with my husband, but later on, I was shocked to see Michael walk up to us with his wife and daughter. I froze in my spot and looked at my husband because he lied about him not coming. I did not confront him because they embraced each other and started crying. His wife was watching as I turned around and walked away. I went to a hotel and stayed there. My husband called right after the funeral and was lashing out, calling me ridiculous and unbearable for pulling the stunt and for walking out of the funeral and leaving him there alone. I said he lied to me about Michael's presence at the funeral and he wasn't alone. Apparently he had his family with him. He got loud saying that I was insane to expect his half-brother to miss the funeral of his stepmother and told me to get a clue. I felt so unsaid that I started crying when he said that I was useless. I packed and went home, but he further argued that I showed no empathy or support by not only walking out of the funeral, but also going home as well. We argued when he came home, and I explained again how he lied to me, but he kept saying that it was illogical to expect Michael not to show up. He told me that I was stuck up and need to get over myself. So, am I wrong for leaving after I felt uncomfortable by Michael's presence? Edit. It doesn't matter what Michael did and what issues we had. A lot of family were calling me harsh for the no contact, but that's a boundary I put and it should be respected no matter the reason behind it. When Michael first saw me, he looked at his wife and she looked at me like she was watching my reaction. There were kids around and I tried to act as calm as I could. Okay, I did some digging to find out what the reason was that she had this boundary with her brother-in-law, and it's as stupid as you think it is. When her husband's father died, there was a disagreement about who inherits the house. His half-brother got it and her husband didn't want to fight it, but she did. And so that's why she goes no contact with him, because she wanted the house, even though it's not like her place to ask for the house. So with that, do what you want with that information. That's why she's mad at him. There's no, I would give respect to like something like that's a boundary I want to set. Like he did something wrong to me. I get that. But it's about inheritance that wasn't even yours. Your husband wasn't mad about it. Why are you? Am I wrong for demanding a refund on drinks I bought a stripper? I regularly visit a gentleman's club in my area, and for the past few months, I've been seeing one particular dancer, Tiffany. In addition to tipping her and getting dances, I buy Tiffany at least one drink every shift. She always requests the same thing, a screwdriver made with a certain brand of vodka. A while back, I went in and Tiffany sat with me as usual. I ordered Tiffany's drink from the barmaid and got one for myself as well. But when I sipped it, I didn't taste any alcohol at all, despite having seen the barmaid pour from the same bottle she used to make Tiffany's drink. Tiffany excused herself to freshen up, and after the barmaid walked away, I grabbed the bottle and poured some into the empty glass. As I suspected, it wasn't vodka, it was plain water. This just sounds so fucking funny to me. When Tiffany came back, I asked if we could go in the back for a dance. When she sat on my lap, I asked her about the fake vodka. I told her I knew it was really water. She tried to tell me it was a one-time thing because she's visiting her sick grandma tomorrow and doesn't want to be too hungover. I pressed her and asked her if she'd been getting water shots the entire time we've been seeing each other. She finally admitted that she's a What? She finally admitted that she's a Mormon and doesn't drink alcohol at all. I admit that I got pretty upset about how she lied, so she called a bouncer and I got kicked out. When I tried to go back, I was told that I've been permanently banned from the club. I told him I wanted to speak to a manager and he threatened to kick my ass into next fucking week if I didn't leave. I told him I was basically frauded and that I wouldn't demand any money back for the aborted lap dance, but I wanted a refund on every drink I was tricked into buying for Tiffany. I've been seeing her every Friday and Saturday, plus a few other weeknights from time to time. So even assuming I only bought her 2 drinks on Friday and Saturdays, that puts me at 2 drinks times 2 nights a week times 20 weeks, which equals 80 drinks. Every screwdriver is $12, so that puts me at $960 spent on nothing but orange juice and water. He called me a Utes and hung up, but they haven't heard the end of this. Am I the asshole? What's a Utes? I'm gonna Google it. What's a Utes? Utes! Oh, okay. A foolish, incompetent, awkward, incompatible person.
Am I the asshole for wanting to stick to rigid gender roles? I, 34 female, have been married to my husband, 38 male, for 10 years. And we have a 9-year-old daughter. When COVID hit, I lost my job, and because I was used to being busy, I poured all my time and efforts into homemaking. My husband loved coming home to a clean house, a cooked dinner, and a wife that was not stressed.
but I was still providing financially from my savings. Last year, I was lucky to find a job that allowed me to work from home and have flexible hours. My husband, on the other hand, hated not having a housewife. After a lot of arguments, me staying with my parents, and him refusing couples counseling, I came up with an idea. Am I the asshole for wanting to stick to rigid gender roles? I told him fine, I'll take charge of the home and childbearing. But in exchange, he has to take care of our expenses on his own like a true breadwinner. He agreed. For 9 months, I've stuck to my side of the deal and the house is always clean. I make breakfast, pack his lunch, have dinner ready when he gets home, and help my daughter with homework and other things. The thing is, I am still working and earning money. It's just that now the money is mine to do what I want with, because I no longer help with the bills or the groceries. Last month, I went ahead and got myself a car upgrade, and it was like I flipped a switch. Now he's saying he wants to go back to how things used to be, and I said no. I like how things are right now.